Let's talk about ranked choice voting. I know that a lot of people call me. They're like, yo, first they go, yo, where's Oakland Rising Action's voter guide? I need to know who to vote for. The second is, how do I do this ranked choice voting and why is it important? It's really confusing to folks. And so ranked choice voting, I know, has been in Oakland since 2010. And I remember the confusion when it first came. Now we're going into our 12th year. This is how many elections in now. I think folks know it, but it still confuses folks every time. So would love to hear about it. Like, why is it important to do ranked choice voting? Why did we bring it to Oakland? Either one of you want to answer that?
Sure. Let me just say that there was a coalition in Oakland in the early 2000s who were really concerned because Oakland elections were getting decided in the primary. We had a primary election and then essentially the top two runoff in November. But candidates were running really, really hard to get elected in the primary election. So they would run, if they got more than 50% of the vote in the primary, they were elected. And our concern really was that the primary electorate is not as representative of Oakland as in the November election. We really were concerned that candidates were running to a richer and whiter electorate, trying to get elected in June, and that was not healthy for Oakland. So we looked at some alternatives, and ranked choice voting because it moves the whole election to November, means that we have a better electorate electing people. And we really wanted that more representative election. And even when people didn't win in the primary election, it meant that in the general election, that was a less representative group because you only had two candidates to choose from. And they frequently were not the candidates that would be alternatives to kind of the status quo.
Like the grassroots candidates.
Yes, they were getting eliminated in a primary election. And then the final piece that we were really concerned about was negative campaigning was really growing in Oakland. There was a lot of slamming of other candidates. And so we wanted to figure out, was there an alternative? And with ranked choice voting, we had a system that meant the election was going to happen in November, which was great. So the whole election happened in November. You had a multitude of candidates, and it doesn't work well for candidates who just engage in a lot of negative campaigning. If I go out and say, don't vote for Sean because he doesn't do a good job, then I'm not likely to get second choice votes from Sean's voters. And in order to win under ranked choice voting, candidates need to campaign and say, vote for me first, but if you are going to vote for me first, can you vote for me second or third? So you have to ask for multiple choices. And so it gets to be, it doesn't do away. I can't say that ranked choice voting does away with negative campaigning because we still see it out there.
It doesn't.
But it does make it harder for candidates to engage in a lot of negative campaigning. So those are the reasons we did it. Yeah.
You do tend to see more candidates who actually are more aligned with each other tend to come together as well, right? And so
exactly.
I feel like that also helps, grassroots voters or grassroots candidates who may not have as large of a budget to run can also align themselves with a candidate who is similar to them and sort of dovetail or come in behind them, right? And it helps their campaign a lot.
Yep. You see the vote for any of the three of us in any order, or vote for us together in any order. So that which is kind of a great way of building coalitions and building names. So we are going to see a change in this November's ballot. In the past, we've gotten to have 3 choices. This time, we're going to get to have up to 5. So you can do up to 5 choices.
When did that change?
Just this election. It's new for this election, and the registrar of voters is not doing a great job of getting that news out to us.
I did not know that. And this is my work. I'm like really shocked right now.
I found it buried on their website.
Oh, goodness gracious.
But I will say, I'll add in 5 tends to be the number that we're seeing across the country. Surveys have been done and studies of voters, and they tend to have strong feelings on about up to 7 candidates. And so, you know, if you do more than 7, you tend to have drop-offs because people won't rank number 8 or number 9. But voters tend to have very strong feelings about the top 7 candidates in a race. And so really this is an opportunity. We're not at 7, so we don't have to worry necessarily about the drop off.
Yes,
but still it's a great opportunity for voters to have more of a say in the electoral process.
But if you only have opinions about 1 or 2, you only have to vote for 1 or 2. So it's up to 5. It's up to 5.
Right.
That's the way I say it.
I think we need to let folks really know that part, right? Because you know, there's a tendency for folks to just see that there are 5 slots. So I need to put in somebody for every single slot. I'm wondering if you could say a little bit, Sean, about like what would the difference be or the impact be from going from having 3 candidates on a ranked choice to 5? I mean, you mentioning that, you know, it allows people to have more choice, but what are some of the other impacts that can come from that?
I think it's great for voters. I mean, the ability to have additional backups, because really your rankings are your backups, because your vote stays with your first choice candidate until they've already lost the race and been eliminated. So it really is an opportunity for voters to have more backups in case, like me, you are unlucky in the candidates that you support. It really does allow you to have a greater say in the process, and allows candidates to work more broadly, collectively, and appeal to voters as a block rather than just as an individual standalone candidate.
Got it. So I'm curious then what you're thinking about in terms of like let's start with how does it work, right? And one of the reasons why we do this, and I think in addition to what Helen was saying, is so that we don't have runoff elections as well as a result too, right? So everything gets decided in this one election. We don't have to worry about the primary. So this is why you didn't see about any of those folks in the primary for the Oakland elections. And now we're here in November, and then we don't have to worry about any runoff elections after this. So that's great. That saves us money as a taxpayer base. It also helps to eliminate all of the campaigning that people do and spend a lot of time doing after elections. And then again, if you do a runoff, you tend to have a huge drop off in voter participation, right? And so this allows the most voters to participate across the board. So how does it work? Like, what are the things you'd like folks to know about how ranked choice voting works?
I like to talk about voting with your heart first. So vote for the candidate you absolutely love the most as your first choice, and don't worry about electability. You have somebody you really are in love with, or you like. I mean, even the one you like the most. So vote with your heart first, and then you can start voting with your brain and think more about, okay, who might, you know, if that person doesn't win, who else would I like to see elected? And it gets down to the point of, I mean, I talk about holding your nose. Who could you absolutely stand to have? And that might be your 5th choice. So you go from your heart to holding your nose.
You're like, who can I live with? I can
Right.
handle
Who can
this.
you live with? Who absolutely could I live with having in that office? And if you don't have 5 people in that then vote for as many as you could absolutely live with, up to 5.
And
So what
one
I'm hearing
thing,
you say, what I'm hearing you saying though, Helen, is that like for folks to know too, is that you do not have to fill out every slot. If you just
That
want
is
to vote for
absolutely
one
correct.
person, vote for that one person. If you have 3, vote for those 3. You don't have to fill in every slot on the ranked choice.
That is absolutely true. So, yeah.
the other tip that I'll add is you never want to vote. Some people often think you have to fill out all of your rankings. And that sometimes includes people voting or ranking the candidate that they don't like, because they think if I rank that person last, that means that they're last on my ballot. But in reality, you're still voting for them. So never rank or vote for someone that you don't like. You don't want to give them that power of your vote.
Right. Because so basically how it works, right? And, maybe you could talk about that, Sean, is like the actual mechanics of it, because I think that's where people really get confused. So, what we do know right now up until this point is that you all have said that we're saying is that don't, choose with your heart and choose to the person that you're up to the person that you're willing to live with. So what Helen said, hold her nose to.
Yeah.
And then then don't vote for the person that you don't want, because the ranked choice is not like, it's not a survey, y'all. It's not 1 to I love and 5 I hate, right? It's 1, 2, 3, whoever it is you want to vote to win. It is not a scale, right?
Exactly.
So how does it work? Why shouldn't people do that? What does it look like on the semantics part of it? How does it happen?
Absolutely. So again, ranking essentially gives you backup choices. So if you're ranking 1 through 5, as Helen said, the first choice is the candidate you love. I usually say it's the person from your community that reflects you and your values. And then kind of you scale it down from there. But the mechanics of it are, once you've cast your ballot, and let's say election day has passed, that they will start opening and counting ballots. They will tally all of the first choice votes. And so that is what looks just like any other election. It's just the first choice votes. If no candidate receives 50% plus 1 of the vote, then we move into the ranking process. And so the candidate with the least number of votes in that race is eliminated, because mathematically there's no way for them to win. And their votes are redistributed to whoever those voters chose as their next choice. So, if I voted for Liz as my first choice, and, unfortunately Liz did not make it through, I still get to have a say. And so my vote now gets to transfer to Helen. And theoretically, if Helen doesn't make it, because again, I've said I'm very unlucky in the candidates that I choose, because I choose awesome candidates who are not always elected. Then
because their values aligned, right? You want to vote with your values.
Exactly. Yes. So then my vote would transfer to whoever I chose as my number 3. And so we continue this process of elimination of the lowest vote getter, and those votes being redistributed until someone reaches the threshold of 50% plus 1 of the vote. Which is another, I think, perk of ranked choice voting, especially as an elected official. Often going through the primary, you may have only advanced with maybe 10% of the vote or 15% of the vote, and 85% of voters voted for someone else.
Right.
That's not the case with ranked choice voting. You have to win with a majority of the votes. So 50% of the vote plus 1. And oftentimes when the full tally is done, we see candidates actually winning with 60 or 70% of the vote, showing that they have a greater mandate and a greater base of support than they may
just
have
with a single vote.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And I think that we have seen that happen several times in Oakland, right? I can,
Mhm.
and I do want to say that with the mail-in ballot situation, okay, wait, let me start with this. With ranked choice voting, we tend to see a little bit of longer wait time in terms of getting results, right? Because there is the tallying of that. But I know it was a few days before, and then now because of mail-in ballots, we have a little bit of a longer wait in terms of all of the tallying of votes.
Liz, I will say ranked choice voting actually doesn't add any time to the counting process because it's really just hitting a button on a keyboard. It's an algorithm, so it's not like they're there manually counting and doing the rankings. What takes longer is, sadly, our registrar doesn't report the numbers through the ranking process until later. That is something we're working on.
So that's what it is. It's not
Yes.
actually the tallying that takes time. It's actually our registrar of voters.
Yes.
They don't provide us with the information in between times. We get the information on election day night. But all they tell us is first ranks. They don't tell us anything else. And then they're silent until all of the ballots are counted.
Got it. And so
there is a movement to get the registrar to further report the numbers, and there's actually an effort going on right now led by Fair Vote California to get them to do that. But our registrar has been hesitant to produce those types of reports.
Right.
Well, that would be really helpful to all of us to know that, because because I remember in 2020 we were waiting on District 5 city council member seat for and Noel Gallo took the seat, but Richard, Raya, and Zoe Lopez, Moran Lopez, they ran a really great race as grassroots candidates, and we were sort of like biting our nails watching this percentage go higher and higher in terms of the ranked choice, and it landed that Gallo won by I think about 2%, but it was really at the end of the day in a city council race is really only a few like less than 500 votes, I think it was. So and so that's good to know that it isn't really about the tally. It's really about how the registrar of voters in Alameda County is taking care of that. So if folks aren't satisfied with that, why don't you give a call to the Alameda County Registrar of Voters and let them know that you would like them to update more often the voter data that's coming out and how folks are voting. I think one other big concern that folks really have is that oftentimes you were saying, Helen, at the beginning that people don't go negative. But what I've seen in Oakland happen is everybody but so-and-so. And so
exactly.
Ranked choice voting becomes a targeting tool to go after folks, and can really actually put people, and then on the flip side to that too, is then you end up with folks that actually really aren't that popular, and then can do some really damage to the city because their politics are actually very different than yours, right? And so I'm wondering if you all can talk a little bit about that. The first one is about the everybody but campaigning that happens.
So I said that it reduces the amount of negative campaigning. It doesn't eliminate it, and you're right. The anybody but campaign is that form of negative campaigning that remains. It is effective. I would say we've gotten people elected using that kind of campaigning. So I don't know how we eliminate it entirely. I mean, Sean maybe has some more ideas.
Well, and I want to take up the latter part, the latter question. If a voting system is a good voting system, it's neutral, right? It doesn't support progressive candidates. It doesn't support moderate candidates. It doesn't support conservative candidates, because voting should be up to the voters. It shouldn't have a bias built into the system that we use for elections. Ranked choice voting does allow for greater representation and voices. In New York City this last year they used ranked choice voting for the first time in their mayoral primary election, and went from never having had more than 15 women on their 51-person city council to having a 31-woman majority, with the overwhelming majority of those being under 40 and women of color. Las Cruces, New Mexico, the first time that they used ranked choice voting, saw the average age of their city council drop by over 40 years. Conservative areas like the heart of Mormon country, Salt Lake City, they used ranked choice voting the first time last year and elected their first majority out LGBT and people of color city council. Even here in Oakland, prior to ranked choice voting, we had never elected a woman mayor. And so ranked choice voting levels the field in that sense. But when it comes to ideologies, it's really just a neutral system. And it's up to us as people who care about representation and who our elected officials are to make sure that we hit the ground like you all do at Oakland Rising Action, to make sure that we are getting candidates elected who represent our values, who reflect our values. But I don't know that ranked choice voting has a positive or a negative impact on that ability.
I think that's really good to know. I know a lot of people, on the campaign side that do a lot of strategizing around it, right? Like how to utilize this ranked choice voting as a strategy. And we're already starting to see a lot of candidates kind of team up together, right? That are aligning themselves. I know across OUSD school board races and even some of the mayoral races, we're seeing folks like come together and be like, this is the team to vote for. And it's a different tactic than the don't vote for this person, like anybody but I also know that that's often used as a tactic, as a strategy to winning somebody in. And we've seen we've been able to see, like you said, Sean, that for the first time with ranked choice voting, we were able to have a woman mayor here in Oakland for the first time. And that was really big. And then, like you're saying also, is that it does not field for ideology. It does oftentimes, though, tend to these types of electoral changes or to our electoral process, changes to our electoral process tend to favor grassroots, people of color, poor folks, working class people who want really the change to see that they can see happen in their city, and then favors more less to the incumbent and more to new candidates. And I think that's really interesting to see that that's what this does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So folks, you are about to get your ballots in the mail soon. We are coming up very close. I know that according to the Register of Voters, they will be mailing out the ballots at the last week of September 28th. So usually takes about a week to 10 days to get to your ballot box, to your mailbox. Go to your mailbox but you can't actually start voting until October 10th. So that's the first day that they'll accept mail-in ballots and they'll start counting them. You could send them in early, but they won't start counting them till October 10th. And then from then till the end, on November 8th, they'll continue to count ballots as they come in. And what you should know is that during that 2-week period prior to the election being over, prior to November 8th, there will be voting stations, right? Voting centers, that's what they're called. Yeah, so they're no longer like these small precinct polling stations or polling centers that are just like specific to your neighborhood. They're a little larger because the scope has changed a little bit. So you can go and vote at any time. I believe tomorrow is the last day to register to vote. Is that right?
Technically, November 8th is the last day to register.
I mean,
But to get mail the
ballot, right?
To get your mail-in ballot, you need to get registered by tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can vote at any polling center. Like you can walk in, you can go to anywhere in Alameda County and say, I am an Alameda County resident. Please give me a ballot. They will give you what's called a provisional ballot. So it gives you the basic stuff, so the state and the city, but it doesn't necessarily give you your very specific district stuff. So, you know, it's better if you want to be able to have a voice in every seat that matters to you and you're most impacted by, then you want to make sure that you register vote by tomorrow. But you can register on the day of elections and you actually don't need your ID to do that.
Right.
And I would just add, you can always go to the Registrar of Voters, which is in the basement of the Alameda County Courthouse in Oakland, and get your ballot there, and they will include your city council races and all of your local races. That's
right. I forgot to mention that. That's good. That's good to add that, because so if you can't go, if you don't go to a ballot polling center, you can go to that, and that the county courthouse is at Fallon Street, right by the lake. You all should know that. And then that's also one of the locations that you can do a drop off of your mail-in ballot. So you could put it in the mail. You can also go to ballot boxes that are all over the county and the city, and you can go to Alameda County Registrar of Voters to find where that ballot box is, so you could drop it in there. They also have like mobile polling boxes, ballot boxes, that they'll go to different locations on special occasions. And we've done that before as Oakland Rising partnered with the Registrar of Voters to have them bring out a ballot box and have folks drive up and drop off their ballots. So that's also something to keep a lookout for, because we're hoping to try to do one of those again.
And last election, the Registrar of Voters had a drive-up place by the county courthouse where you could just drive up and hand them your ballot, which was a nice thing to do too. So if you're out and about around the lake, you can do that. Yeah.
Yes, that's such a great, it's so easy, right? To just drive, it's like a drive-through. It's pretty fast, and you even still get your sticker. So
yes,
you can do that. I know a lot of people like to get that sticker.
And there's smiling people who will take your ballot, and so that helps. You get another thank you for voting. We'll thank you, and then you get one there.
So you should know too that the drop-off boxes too get cleared out every day. So they have someone come and clear it out. So it's not just sitting there over a long period of time. It does get cleared out every day, and they do count those ballots as quickly as possible.
And oftentimes multiple times a day.
Yes.
Depending on the location, especially downtown Oakland, I know they clear out multiple times a day.
And you can check online once you have put your ballot in a ballot box or in a mailbox. You can check online, and they will tell you where that they've received your ballot, or and counted it.
Yeah, they track your ballot, right?
Right. Yeah, they
you
track
have
it.
To. Do you remember if you have to check that off on your ballot when you mail it in? I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think it's done for all of them.
It's automatic.
You just keep the receipt at the top of your ballot. You tear off the receipt so that you have those, and that includes your number.
Yeah, and if you do include your phone number or your cell phone number as part of your voter registration, you'll actually get a text to tell you
Yeah.
that you that's happening and there's a tracking system happening.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to see if there's anything else you all wanted to add about ranked choice voting. We're so grateful to you both for coming on and talking about it. Wondering if there are some online resources that you think that you can like point to folks to go to so that they can, I know it's still confusing to maybe verbally hear it. So maybe if folks want to watch a video, because there's lots of cute videos out there. And if there are other places that folks can learn more about ranked choice voting and how to use it.
So I being a League of Women Voters person, I need to say you need to use votersedge.org because that will give you everything that's on your ballot. So votersedge.org tells you everything that's on your ballot, and it gives you unbiased information about it, and the candidates can give information there. So we've got that coming up, votersedge.org. And then, Liz, I sent you the link to the video that I particularly like about how the ballots are counted. Sean may have something too, but it's a really brief video about how the ballots get counted in ranked choice voting.
And Liz, and I think this goes to one of your earlier points. As voters, I think it's good to know how your ballot is counted, but you shouldn't worry too much about it if you don't understand it. As long as you know how to fill out your ballot and how to do your rankings, the rest is pretty automatic. So there's not a lot of human error there because it's not like people are in a room counting your ballots and trying to figure out the rankings. It really is done by software that has been tried and tested and is trusted, is not hackable, all of that stuff. So it's more of an automatic process.
I just imagine someone standing there like actually using Post-its and tallying on a wall.
So
or shuffling ballots into piles. That's the other thing.
Well,
right.
It's happened.
No.
So in New York, when they had some special elections that used ranked choice voting prior to the citywide race or election, and they had not validated the software yet to count the votes. So they actually sat in a room, and each ballot in a basket for who the vote was for, and then you would see like the individual ballot go across the room to somebody else's basket as they were going through the process. It was actually very cool, and it was good for people to see, but once we got to, millions of votes, that was very different, and the computer software did that in a matter of minutes for the 500-600 candidates that ran in that election. So it's good to know about how the process goes, but if you don't quite understand it, that is also okay. So I would give two websites. One is calrcv.org. That is the California Ranked Choice Voting Coalition. On that website, there is a mock election that you can use. So you can go through the ranking process. I believe currently it is the mayor of Supertown. And so it includes superheroes and villains and, a good mixture of folks. And there you can practice your ranking up to 5. For more information just generally on ranked choice voting, fairvote.org is another great resource. And they have all the data you could ever want on ranked choice voting, including how it's impacted us here in the Bay Area. Those are the two.
Excellent. We'll try to put, I pinned the video so that folks can watch that, but you definitely go to all of that. We'll be sharing this out and we'll put it in the comments so that folks can also see that. Really appreciate you all. So what you all should know, walk away with is vote with your heart, vote with your values, and then up till you can hold your nose.
Exactly.
And then after that, you don't have to vote, or don't write down or choose the folks you don't want, right? Just the people that you want, and the up to the people that you're willing to live with. So that's important to know. So even if you don't know how all the algorithm works and everything, this is an important piece. And so you don't get too confused about that. But Oakland Rising Action, our sister organization, is going to be putting out a voter guide. So check out that at some point. Check out League of Women Voters. Check out CORE. Check out oaklandrising.org. And if you'd like to donate, oaklandrising.org/donate. I really appreciate you for joining us today. And thank you so much, Helen and Sean. I super appreciate you both for this because it's so helpful to hear from you both. You know, I would call you both experts on this.
Well, no, thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. I love talking about all of these kinds of things around elections. So it's nice to have it. And it's good to see you, and it's good to see Sean.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.